Pernell Roberts, who was on Bonanza, quit one of the biggest TV shows of all time. His later years were shrouded in mystery from his brave decision to leave Hollywood spotlight to the empty house that still holds whispers of his past. What did he leave behind for his wife? How much was his net worth when he died? What were his last days really like? Stay with us as we reveal the untold story of Pernell Roberts, the man behind Adam Cartwright, and the sad truth about his sad death. Before we get to the shocking details about Pernell's personal life, we need to take a look at his early life. Pernell Roberts was born on May 18, 1928, in Waycross, Georgia. He was the only child of Pernell Elvin Roberts Sr., a doctor, pepper salesman, and Minnie Myrtle Morgan Roberts, also known as Betty. From a young age, he showed a love for the arts by playing the horn, acting in school and church plays, and performing in local Uzo shows while he was in high school, though he only went to college for a short time. Roberts never finished his degree at Georgia Tech because he joined the U.S. Marine Corps in 1946 and served for 2 years. While in the military, he played the tuba and horn in the Marine Corps band and was also good at playing the saxophone and percussion instruments. After his service, Roberts went to the University of Maryland to study further and was introduced to classical theater. He performed in productions of Olo and Antigone, among others, but he quit before he graduated. After graduating, Roberts chose to gain real-world experience by performing in summer stock theater. Inspired by his success, he quickly became a professional actor, quickly making a name for himself. In 1955, he won a Drama Desk Award for Best Actor Off-Broadway for his roles in 2 Shakespearean plays. By 1957, he had moved to Hollywood and landed roles in movies like Desire, Under the Elms, The Sheepman, and Ride Lonesome Bonanza. However, it was as Adam Cartwright, the eldest son of Ben Cartwright, on the hit Western on the TV show Bonanza. Adam was portrayed as a smart and independent architectural engineer, which made him stand out as the smartest and most independent of the Cartwright sons. However, Roberts, who had built his career as a stage actor in classical theater, found it hard to play the same character week after week without any changes in costume or personality, which was very different from the roles he was used to in theater. His frustrations grew over time, especially when he had to play the same character over and over again. He didn't like how the show followed a formula, didn't include enough minorities, and had scripts that were too simple. One of his biggest complaints about the show was the relationship between Adam and his father, Ben Cartwright Roberts. He didn't like how his character, an accomplished man in his 30s, always had to get his widowed father's approval before making any decisions. In a famous interview from 1963, he asked, "Isn't it a bit silly for 3 adult males to have to ask father's permission for everything they by the 1964-1965 season?" He was completely unhappy with his job and made the brave decision to leave Bonanza, even though it was a huge hit. He was very vocal about his dissatisfaction, reportedly calling the show junk television and accusing NBC of promoting mediocrity. At one point, he even compared his role on the show to Isaac Stern sitting in with Lawrence Welk to emphasize how out of place he felt. Roberts later denied some of the harsher comments that were attributed to him, clarifying that while he no longer enjoyed working on Bonanza, he never used some of the words that the media had reported. But he never hid the fact that he didn't like some things about the show or how network television limited him. He wanted more mature stories and more complicated themes because he thought Bonanza could have been a little more grown up. Pernell Roberts had high hopes for Bonanza because he thought he could give his character more depth and complexity, but he quickly got frustrated with how limited his role and acting range were. In a newspaper interview, he talked about how unhappy he was, saying, "I haven't grown at all since the series began. Everywhere I turn, there's the father image father I am." His anger grew over time as he fought with writers and producers over the show's direction, the quality of the scripts, and the rigid character of Adam Cartwright. He was also unhappy that Bonanza wouldn't let him take on other acting jobs while he was under contract, which made him feel creatively stifled. He took the rare and risky decision to leave a popular TV show, going against industry norms and the well-meaning advice of Hollywood insiders. Instead, he chose to return to his first love, the stage. Roberts fulfilled his 6-year contract but chose not to renew it. His departure was handled simply within the show. Later episodes gave vague explanations for his absence, such as being at sea, moving to Europe, or running the family business on the East Coast. His last filmed episode was called Dead and Gone, aired on April 4, 1965, but 2 previously recorded episodes featuring him, A Good Night's Rest and To Own the World, aired afterward. Adam Cartwright was still mentioned sporadically throughout the series, including in a 1967 episode that didn't air until 1971 and talked about Roberts' departure. Bonanza producer David Dort called him rebellious, outspoken, and distant, but he also said that he could make any scene he was in better. In later years, Dort expressed regret over not being able to keep Roberts on the show. After letting Adam get married and become a recurring character on the show, I realized I wasn't giving him enough credit. I knew he was good, but I didn't know he was that good. Decades later, in the early 1990s Bonanza TV movies, Adam Cartwright's fate was finally resolved. According to the plot, he had built a successful life in Australia, where he had matched his father's achievements in the engineering and construction business. After leaving Bonanza, Pernell Roberts focused on projects that gave him more satisfaction. He toured with Ingrid Bergman in George Bernard Shaw's Captain Brassbound's Conversion and starred in many stage productions such as Camelot, The King, and I Try Alice. Lauren Green, who played Ben Cartwright, reportedly asked Roberts to stay on the show a little longer because she thought he could make enough money to open his own theater and hire the best writers. But Roberts had already made up his mind. Landon, another Bonanza co-star, had a different opinion. He agreed that Roberts didn't like the show but said that he didn't do much to make it better. Landon also said that the rest of the cast made more money after Roberts left because the takes were split 3 ways instead of 4. Roberts' reflections on his departure 20 years after leaving Bonanza. Roberts realized the harsh reality of aging in Hollywood. Actors tend to lose their value over time in order to stay relevant. He got the lead role in the CBS hit show Trapper John M.D., which helped him get back on his feet financially. By that time, he knew that his co-stars on the show had made a lot of money and his departure had cost him millions of dollars. But he never felt bad about leaving, saying that staying on the show would have been bad for his emotional health and that no amount of money could have kept him in a job he didn't enjoy. In a 1979 interview with Marilyn Beck of the Chicago Tribune, he was asked if he regretted leaving. After 6 seasons on the Ponderosa, Roberts immediately replied, "God, no. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get out of my contract and leave sooner." Some people asked about the money, since he had been paid well for his role, but that wasn't what drove him. The others made millions. How much does one person need to live? I've never needed or wanted that much, he said. Roberts had been vocal about his dissatisfaction with the show's plot for a long time, and this interview was no different. My problems with Bonanza were communication issues. He said what we talked about never happened. I thought it would be a sophisticated show. Unlike many actors in Hollywood, Roberts had never been motivated by fame. He said, "I've never been career-oriented. Did I ever want to be a star? What's a star? That's the only definition that comes to mind. And the most important goals in my life have been to move gently to be at ease with the mystery of what it's all, according to show business agent Bill Kiley." Roberts was a deep thinker who wanted Bonanza to go beyond being just another action-packed Western and include more meaningful social themes. Pernell Roberts actually went to the doctor for his problems with Bonanza, even though he only played Adam Cartwright for a short time. In an interview with the Miami Herald, Roberts said that much of his anger came from his own problems rather than the show's problems. He said, "It wasn't their fault, it was mine. The whole thing became mentally crushing for me. I even went to a doctor for help." Roberts talked more about his decision to leave in an interview with the Daily News leader, saying that he felt stifled by playing the same character week after week. "I left Bonanza because I wanted to grow as an actor. The money was great, sure, but I had to choose between financial security and proving myself. I chose the latter, and most people thought I was crazy," he said. It was hard for Roberts to get away from the shadow of the Cartwright name. He got job offers, but they were all for roles just like Adam. He had to wait for something that would let him show a different side of himself. He worked, but he wasn't happy. Luckily, Roberts didn't give up and eventually found a career that truly fulfilled him. Looking back on his journey, he said, "It's been a long road, but they say the hardest part is taking those first steps." Bonanza without Roberts. Roberts' departure was a big change for Bonanza because fans and producers had grown used to seeing him as Adam Cartwright. The show went on for another 8 years, but attempts to replace him never quite worked. While the idea of bringing Roberts back was thought about, it was never put into action. The show went on until Dan Blocker, who played Hose, died suddenly, at the age of 43 from a pulmonary embolism. His death led to a final plot point in which his character was also killed off, and soon after, Bonanza ended. Pernell Roberts later sued ABC for using an unauthorized clip of him in Bonanza. Since the show continued to be popular after he left, some people were surprised when he did so in 1979. The reason? The network had used a clip of him in a promotion show without his permission, even though they owned the rights to Bonanza. Roberts was vocal about his beliefs. Because of his troubled relationship with Bonanza, it wasn't a surprise that he didn't want his name or likeness to be linked to the show. That's why he said no when ABC asked for permission to use a clip of him in their Cowboy reunion special, When the West Was Fun. "They asked for permission, and I said no because they weren't going to pay me for it. Roberts said they used it anyway, which is why I'm suing them. It's still not known if he won the case or not." Tragic story about Pernell Roberts losing his only son. Pernell Roberts may have been successful in Hollywood, but his personal life was full of tragedy and heartbreak. He was married 4 times and lost his only son before he became famous as the oldest Cartwright son on Bonanza. Roberts had already been through love and loss when he married Vera Maui in 1951. Maui was a professor at Washington State University who also taught theater history at Hunter College. During his marriage to Ma, Roberts was very involved in the theater world, acting in plays like The Playboy of the Western World, The Glass Manager, and The Importance of Being Earnest. That same year, he and Ma had their son Jonathan Christopher Roberts. However, Roberts and Ma's marriage didn't last. By 1953, they were divorced, and Roberts moved to New York to further his acting career. They got a divorce in 1959, and Roberts got married again to Judith Leber. But their marriage ended in divorce he married Carrara Nack the next year, in 1972, and they were married for over 20 years. During this time, his son Jonathan went to Franconia College. Sadly, Jonathan was killed in a motorcycle accident in 1989 when he was only 38 years old. This terrible loss cast a shadow over Roberts' life. After his divorce from Cara in 1996, he found love again with Eleanor Biswell, whom he married in 1997 and stayed by his side until his death from pancreatic cancer on January 24, 2010. Roberts stayed dedicated to his craft, but his personal life was full of love and loss, which shaped the man he played. Behind the roles he played, Pernell Roberts had a life of principle, passion, and loss, and the last few years of his life showed everything he stood for. His dedication to his craft, his unwavering morals, and his quiet dignity. Even after decades of challenges, triumphs, and personal tragedy, he carried himself with the same sense of pride. In the end, the only thing that held him back was time. By the 1970s, Roberts had already made a name for himself on TV, with guest spots on Hawaii 5, Marcus Welby MD, and MASH. But it was his role as Dr. John McIntyre in the CBS medical drama Trapper John MD that really took off, running for 7 successful seasons from 1979 to 1986, and showing that Roberts could leave Bonanza behind and make his own way. However, as the 1980s came to a close, after the tragic death of his son Jonathan Christopher Roberts in a motorcycle accident at age 38, Pernell Roberts' career slowed down a lot. The once young and slick actor who had commanded the screen in Bonanza now carried the weight of age and grief. His acting opportunities dwindled, and by the 1990s he was appearing on screen much less often. In 1991, Roberts played FBI, The Untold Stories, but that didn't last long. As the decade went on, he retreated even further from the public eye, choosing a quieter, more private life. By the late 1990s, Roberts had retired from acting completely and was living alone in his Malibu home. He was happy to spend his days away from the spotlight, but he never stopped being the man who stood up to racism, sexism, and the stereotypical roles that actors are forced to play. Roberts was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2007 and fought it privately for 2 years. He died on January 24, 2010, at the age of 81. His funeral was small, with only close family and friends attending, as a tribute to the private life he had worked hard to protect throughout his career. He was called a rebel for leaving Bonanza at the height of its popularity and speaking out against unfair practices in the entertainment industry, but he never let that get to him. Beyond his Hollywood career, Roberts was a smart and determined man who saw himself as more than just a TV star. He lived his life on his own terms and kept his head held high until the very end. The only thing that could ever silence him was death. How much did Pernell Roberts earn when he died? Roberts started his career on the stage and went back to live theater several times during his life. His theater work and small TV roles helped him make money, but it was during his time on Bonanza and Trapper John MD. Roberts and his co-stars made up to $10,000 per episode. By the time he left the show, the money he made from that and his other projects kept him going for decades, according to Celebrity Net Worth. At the time of his death at age 881, Robert had an estimated net worth of $10 million. Pernell Roberts' Northridge house. This is Pernell Roberts' former home in Northridge, California, which was bought in 2003. For $631,000 was a charming and comfortable home in the San Fernando Valley. The house probably reflected his practical side by providing a peaceful retreat away from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Northridge is known for its quiet suburban neighborhoods, tree-lined streets, and large homes, making it an ideal place for people seeking privacy and relaxation. While not much is known about the home itself, homes in the area at that time were usually built in the classic California ranch style or a Mediterranean-inspired style. In the early 2000s, a house in this price range would have probably had 3 to 4 bedrooms, multiple bathrooms, and large living rooms. Many homes in Northridge also have open floor plans, lots of windows that let in lots of natural light, and backyards that are perfect for parties or quiet relaxation. Because Roberts liked privacy, his Northridge home may have been tucked away in a quiet cul-de-sac or a gated community, keeping the public out. This house had a well-kept front yard with lots of plants, and maybe a swimming pool or patio area in the backyard, which are all common features in Southern California homes. Roberts lived there until he died in 2010, and even though it wasn't a fancy mansion, it was a place of comfort and stability for him after a long and successful career in acting, activism, and legacy. To fight for social justice, in 1965, he marched with other Black Americans in the Selma to Montgomery marches, which were a key moment in the civil rights movement. He did this to show support for the right of Black Americans to vote. Unlike many Hollywood actors of his time who chose to stay out of politics, Roberts spoke out against racial inequality and took direct action to make things better. One of his biggest achievements in the entertainment industry was getting NBC and other networks to stop hiring white actors instead of black actors. At the time, it was common for actors to play minority characters in movies and TV shows. Roberts strongly believed in authentic representation and wasn't afraid to question the status quo, even if it meant risking his career. Roberts's dedication to civil rights and his contributions to the arts left a lasting legacy. What do you think about Pernell Roberts's life and legacy? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content on Bonanza star Pernell Roberts and other stars you love. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next show. Until then, stay tuned.